Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Coffee Time. This show is all about chat and spirituality and philosophy and stuff like that with myself and a guest. This evening, I have the pleasure of the lovely Louise Ayres joining me tonight. So, without further ado, I'll get young Helen on. Hello, Helen. How are you? All right?
I'm really good, Stephen. How are you?
Hot, as always.
Very hot. It's too hot. It's really too hot, isn't it? But there we are.
There we are. Yeah. Thanks for joining me tonight. And I know you're a busy lady, so thanks for joining me. Just for those who don't know you, please tell us a little bit about yourself, your spiritual journey so far, and where you're at.
I'm 9 years into my spiritual journey now. I sat in development for 2 years at my local church. My tutor was Mike Williamson, fantastic tutor, quite a strict tutor in some respects, really. But it doesn't hurt you to have that discipline, I feel, in the teachings. Absolutely loved it. And it was quite a sudden occurrence for me with spirit in some respects. My daughter Jade, she's 22 now. She went through a lot of operations through her life, spinal surgery, heart surgery, and so forth. And I always could feel that I could sense spirit around me, and I wasn't connecting with spirit or anything then, but I could feel like the cobweb feeling on your hands and face. And when we were going through these big surgeries, especially on her spinal surgeries, I could feel that there was, I want to say, probably my family around me, if you like, but I wasn't not working with spirit at all at that point. And I think it was quite comforting to know that they were there with me going through that, But it wasn't until my nan passed, 2017, that really kind of opened the door for me. I was really close to my nan. And after about 2 or 3 weeks of her passing, she come in to speak to me. And I was like, how can you be talking to me? You've just gone over to spirit. And I could hear her like word for word. And she's like, hello, love, I'm okay now. And I was like, what? And prior to that kind of massive opening the door, if you like, I kept hearing things like my name being shouted. And I used to jump because I'd hear Helen and I'd look around and there's no one there. So there was lots of different things that led up to that moment. But when my nan passed is when the door opened for me spiritually. And it was like, whoa, okay. And then I was hearing lots of voices, people talking to me every night. And I thought, I'm losing the plot, Stephen. I literally thought that I was, perhaps a schizophrenic in that moment, because it was that sudden for me. It went from nothing to full on all the time. And then I started naming all my husband's family in spirit. And he was like, and giving him messages. He's like, where are you getting all that from? And I'm like, I know, it's mad. And every night for the first 2 or 3 months, spirit were coming in, because obviously they come when you're most relaxed, aren't you? And obviously I'd not had any training how to connect with spirit. And that's kind of where it went from there, without going too much into it. But obviously went back. I went to the church and I sat in development for 2 years, and here I am, quite a few years on. So yeah, quite a sort of gone from nothing to full on. Do you know what I mean? I do feel with spirit, and I don't know if you feel this. It's all about the timings with spirit and when the time is right, and that, because I felt that they were around a lot more before that, but it wasn't until my nan passed that it really come in suddenly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think everybody has their right time.
Yeah.
I mean, chatting to people over the years, I mean, I come in when I was very young.
Yeah.
And, I've met people in their 70s, 80s that are just starting out, and things have just started happening for them.
Yeah.
But they've lived a full life, and they say, I wish I'd started when I was young like you. And I said, well, this is your right time. You've lived a full life. You've grown up, you've married, you've had children, you've had your sadnesses and your tragedies. You've also had your happiness. You've lived a full life, and now it's time. You've achieved everything that you've needed to achieve, and now it's time to open your heart and your mind to spirit.
Yeah,
to the next stage of evolution. What a lot of people don't seem to realise, Helen, is that we're all developing spiritually
all the time. And that's the thing with this work, isn't it, Stephen, that you don't never stop learning. spirit change things. You have change of guides. They want to teach you something new. I'm not too good with change. They have a little bit of a battle with me sometimes because I'm quite set in my ways of how I work, but I have to adapt to that. Do you know what I mean? And now they try to do it a little bit more subtly instead of completely change everything, you know? But like you said, we never stop learning. Absolutely not. We never stop. Never, never, never.
I think it's good to be pushed out your comfort zone, and I think Spirit are very good at doing that. And,
absolutely.
And it does test us. I mean, when it's happened to me, I found it disconcerting, but I've embraced it.
Yes, I know what you're saying.
Because
yeah,
go on. Oh, sorry, I was
no. I agree with you, but I think you have to be more. I have to be for myself a little bit more adaptable to that change, you know, because I haven't found that necessarily easy. So yeah, because I think you work the way you work that works well for you, but then it's like, but we might want to strengthen up your other senses, Helen. Do you know what I mean? And it's
right,
like, so we're going to test you other ways. And I don't know about you, but just of the last week or two, I've done some readings for people that have never had a reading before. And in one particular reading, I found it quite challenging. Now, the thing is as well, when someone's never had a reading before, they're not sure how to approach the reading, how to kind of be open to it. And that could be quite challenging for the mediums. I don't know if you've had this as well, but this is what I've been having of late. So it's almost as if they're teaching me something new about when someone's never had a reading, they're closed down quite a bit. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I find people that are a bit sceptical easier than spiritualists, believe it or not. You might find that a bit hard to believe, but
wow, really?
Yeah, because they can be closed off, but I've experienced what you have. They're closed off and stuff like that. They want the big sort of like earth-shattering information to come from.
I know what you're saying as well. I understand that, and I think,
putting it lightly, spirit moving in mysterious ways. You know
absolutely,
what I mean?
Absolutely.
I was serving Wales last year, Cadoxton, and and I went to this young lad. Little did I know he'd been dragged there by his girlfriend, right? Because he'd taken the mickey out of her for going to spiritualist church. She said, "Okay, then put your money where your mouth is. Come and see what it's all about." And come along, and I gave him a message, not knowing he's a skeptic. He's sitting there going, "Oh," like that, and his girlfriend's going like that. I brought his grandmother through and his dad through. I'm sure you've experienced that as well. But he's saying I'm coming every week now.
Wow.
And I think that's the beauty of it. But I think it's in the way we tell them.
I agree with you. I agree with you, and I think that we're sometimes our harshest critics anyway. And if a reading has been like really, really challenging in the link, you kind of think, oh, I don't know how. But then after I got some really good feedback off it, but in that moment I found it really, really hard, And I think that's the thing, to stay humble and blessed that we do this work, but also we all have our struggles as mediums as well as just general, the population. Because that's some of the challenges. Sometimes it's the people as well, not necessarily spirit, because we work with so many different people, don't we? Different characters, different energies.
Exactly.
And I think when I was learning, my tutor always used to put me with people, say that I may not gel with, like as in a friendship, away from the spirit work, And because I didn't have that click energy with that person, I found when I was learning, I found that quite hard. Do you know what I mean? I found it challenging. But now I see why he did that. And obviously, I still have the challenges now as we do. It's not easy. It's not for the faint-hearted, this work with spirit, is it, though? You've really got to be up for the challenge, don't you? I've
always said, to do platform mediumship, you've got to have skin like a rhino. You're talking to levels of understanding, whether they're they've had their proof of life after death 1,000 times, or they're coming in, they're a bit skeptical, but they want to find out one way or another if it's true that there is an eternal life. and stuff, and you've got all the levels in between that. There are some that, dare I say, can't take the mick or whatever, but it's about how we communicate to them levels of understanding. My teacher always used to call it going up and down the levels.
Yeah.
You know, but my challenge, what I've been experiencing over the last few months now, is because I always say to people, you know, that spirit are learning to communicate with us as much as we're learning to communicate with them. There are those that are not very aware of how to communicate through a medium, or they don't know how to, or they're a bit shy. They were naturally shy when they were on Earth, or whatever. And the last few weeks, few months, I've been getting very faint links, and I can just tell that it's a man or a woman. I've really had to really focus hard on my attunement to get the message through. You know what I mean? Which when you're standing up in front of 30 people, that sort of throws you off guard a bit, doesn't it?
It really, really does. You're absolutely right. And I think sometimes as well, my tutor always said to me, you can't just give love, Helen, you need to give a message. And he's absolutely right. But I do find, you know, like if you're doing a public dem, and you're doing a big public dem and you're going around the room as I do, I normally go to where I feel drawn. That's how I work. But when I do that, so I've lost my train of thought completely now. But what we're talking about, just remind me, Stephen. I think spirit are coming in there because I just like completely lost what I was going to say to you.
Yeah, well, I was talking about my comfort zone and spirit testing me.
That's it.
I've had links that are very faint and
but I find that if I'm doing a public demonstration, that sometimes when I go to someone, it's more about the memory links and the love of that person or persons that come in. And I'll say to spirit, well, what's the message then? And sometimes there's not a big booming message. And I think that's what I'm learning sometimes as well, is just that they've just come to say something quite brief and then we're moving on again. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to, oh, it's a big booming message. Do you know what I mean? Because it isn't always like that, is it? Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's right. And everybody do cartwheels because it's fantastic evidence and all the rest of it. You know what I mean?
I know, absolutely. And I think, like, I don't know if you notice this as well, but when I do demonstrations in church or if I do an in-person demonstration or whatever, I think what is so fantastically wonderful about spirit is they just bring what's needed for each service as individual to that service. So sometimes I might bring a lot of service where it's like lots of humour and everyone's laughing. And then in a church service, they might just rein that back in quite a lot. Do you know what I mean? I've noticed that they know what to bring for each thing that you do. Do you understand that as well?
Yeah, I agree. Like I was telling you earlier, you know, Birmingham Council, because they weren't prepared to pay my expenses. And then a couple of days later, Shirley Church down the road from me, they had a cancellation for that night. And I said, yeah, all right, then I'll do it. But, you know, there's only 7 of us there, as including me, 7 or 8, something like that. And gave this one message from her dad, from this lady's dad. I was giving a message to a lady. It was from her dad. You know, done all the evidential stuff. And then the message was telling her to let go because she'd had some sort of kind of trauma when she was young.
Yeah.
He was talking to her about it and he was telling her to let go because she needs to move on with her life. You know, and I said to her afterwards, I said, I had a big demo booked up in Birmingham, but they were cancelled. But I said, it's worth it just to have given you that message.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think spirit work in that way. But what I found is I normally like read my own poems out, you know, for the reading and then the address. But it'll, like with the hymns, will be linked to the poem. Right, the address is obviously linked to the poem as well. It all seems to be synchronized, if you know what I mean.
I really, really do. And people have often said for me, if I've done a reading and an address, they'll say, oh, that link with the music. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, spirit are very clever, like you say, of putting it all together so that it all kind of flows and it all works, you know? Yeah, you know, absolutely.
The majority of them do pop songs now, and I've done one of my poems the other week, and I forget the song, but it fitted nicely with the poem.
Yes.
And I thought,
Yes.
well, they couldn't, when they were picking the songs, they couldn't have known what I was going to read out. And I just think it's lovely, you know what I mean? It's,
Yeah.
you know, but anyway,
I,
tonight, folks, this isn't about me and Helen giving messages. This is about me and Helen talking about our experiences. But please feel free to ask any questions you would like. And me and Helen will do our best to answer them. I did see something on Facebook yesterday, Helen. How do you think mediumship's changed since you've been involved in it? Okay, I know our mediumship changes because spirit are always trying to teach us new ways of working or strengthening our other senses, like you say. But what changes have you noticed?
I remembering how nervous I was when I started out. I mean, I used to chair in the church before I went onto platform, and no word of a lie, I used to stand on that stage and shake physically, literally, and I looked like, I was about to pass out on the stage. And I was like that for a good year and a half, because I think I never thought for a million years I'd stand on any stage, let alone a church stage, you know. My nerves were shot, you know, when I started. It was like, oh, I can't do this. And I think when I made the transition over to work with spirit, they did help me to give me that confidence to do so. But I think your confidence does get stronger from when you start to now. Do you know what I mean? And I think when we work with spirit, it is all about that trust as well. And I think I talk about that in my teachings when I've done my teachings in the past. I think you have to trust spirit with your life and have that real strong link with him in that respect. Because if you start doubting, or you know what I mean, doubting that, or you start questioning what they're giving you instead of just, because sometimes I think when they work with you, they work like a puzzle, and it's like, it doesn't always make sense in the first bit. And then as you go through the reading, other things come in that fit to go in the jigsaw puzzle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, because spirit, the way they work with me, you know, they've been working with me like it sometimes. They'll just give me a little piece of information, teensy bit of piece of information. And the person's shaking their heads and all this. Then another little bit of join it, then another little bit of join it, then another little bit until it all makes sense.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I'll say to people, it's not like on the TV. You know, where it's sort of straight out and it's all wonderful and everything like that. Yeah, I have to explain to people, I'm just giving it as I'm getting it.
Yeah, same though. Absolutely.
Yeah, which is disconcerting at times, but yeah, go on.
It is. It can be, can't it, in that moment, because you are challenged at the highest level. And as I said before, it's not for the faint-hearted, this work. It's not. It's probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my whole life. Do you know what I mean? And I love it with a passion. And I think with this kind of work, you've got to love it with a passion, because you make a big commitment to that.
Yeah, I think that's the only way you can do it.
I think you can't be half in or half out. I say to people, if you want to learn, you've got to physically commit to it, weekly, fortnightly, whatever it's going to be. And spirit will step up and meet you halfway if you meet them halfway. And that's what I truly believe with that. Do you know what I mean? I say you can't be half in and half out, and when you feel like it doesn't work like that with spirit, you know?
No, you got to be fully committed. And I think you got to be dedicated and that committed. And I think that can be taught in circle.
Yeah.
You know, like with closed circle, you have to turn up every week no matter what.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, people have got to realise, especially in this day and age, you know, that you've got to have that dedication to spirit, and you've got to have that commitment to spirit. Just to remind everybody, we're not giving messages tonight. We're just talking about spirituality, all the workings of mediumship. But if you have any questions about spirituality, philosophy, or how things work in spirit, please ask myself and Helen, and we will answer you to the best we can. What was we saying? I've forgotten now. Right, but
yeah, we were just talking about when we work with spirit. But I'll tell you something that happened to me that's very, very interesting. I was working in Essex, Funsley, the other week, and I had a private reading stay to do there. Okay, and then so my last link, I did a reading there. Lady sat down on that, and I started reading for her. and it was her dad. So it turns out her dad is still here, but he has Alzheimer's disease. Okay. So he spoke to me, obviously through spirit, to pass this message on to her. Well, she could not stop crying, and she said to me at the end, "You don't know how much that meant to me." Isn't that just amazing? That was just like that wow moment, you know, when you think you're good, spirit, you're really good, you know. And the healing that she got from that was just incredible. But it drew parallels, I suppose, to what I'm going through at the moment with my mum as well. Do you know what I mean? And I just think it made me, when she got up and left and she'd cried all the way through it and she said, "Thank you so much. You've helped me so much." When she got up, I just cried as well, because it was kind of like quite close to home. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think in a way, maybe you got some healing from that as well, Helen.
Sorry?
Maybe you got some healing from that as well, because I think spirits do come in and people are brought to us that are going through what we're going through sometimes, or we have gone through.
Yes.
And we can talk from experience as well as, you know, but I think with that reading, it allowed you to have that extra bit of compassion.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Because she said to me, you know, "Thank you so much. My dad can't speak down here anymore." See?
That's why I've given a message like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And spirit work it in the way, because I do think their real selves are sort of more in spirit realms than their physical selves, obviously. And they can communicate that way. And I think it's amazing.
Absolutely.
You know, that link can be created, and it just makes me want to learn more and discover more about it, because there's been one or two people. The person you're describing is my dad, but he's at home with dementia. I've said, well, he's here communicating now. And the message
that's what I had. Yeah.
I just think that's amazing how spirit work like that.
And it isn't. I'd done 6 readings that day, and she was the last reading. And my energy was just starting to go, obviously, because you have to hold energy for quite a long time when you're doing 20-minute readings back to back.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, she said, "Can you do one more?" And I remember thinking, I'm absolutely knackered, but give it a go. And it probably was the best reading of the whole 6. Do you know what I mean?
Right, yeah, it's them ones when you're on your chin strap and you want to go home.
Exactly.
Just one more, and oh my God, and you know, winking kapow, and it's what I call a wow message. You know, it's really given the healing comfort. You know, her poor old dad was able to communicate with her, because he can't communicate in his physical self.
No.
So it's allowed him to communicate, and you know, you as a channel, you know, that's facilitated that communication. I think it's beautiful. You know.
Yeah, and I just remember thinking, isn't it just truly such an honour to serve spirit? And it was just one of them wow moments in my career, and that's probably why I've spoken about it tonight, because it was just like, and the lady herself was a medium as well, which I did pick up on as well, but she just cried the whole way through, and she said, "You don't know how much that meant to me." And obviously I was aware, because obviously she was crying, but when she got up and left, I shed a couple of tears, and I was like, wow. Do you know what I mean? Because it was making me think of my situation with my mum and whatever when I was working, but then afterwards it hit me emotionally a little bit as well, you know. But actually I think it kind of, like you said, helped me as well with what I'm dealing with and what I'm going through as well, you know.
Because it's very hard. I mean, because I work for Meals on Wheels, I deal with people with dementia. I'm delivering food to people that have dementia, and sometimes I've walked away with a lump in my throat, because you'll get an old lady that's sort of 95, and she's on about phoning her mum up to complain that I was late. You know what I mean? So her mum's been in spirit for some time, sort of thing. But you just have to go along with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you do. You really do.
But for spirit to facilitate that reading, I think is absolutely amazing, because it allowed that man to communicate. You know, whatever he needed to communicate.
Exactly that. And I think, you know, I thought I must share that with you tonight, because
I'm glad you did. I'm really pleased you did.
That's a really pivotal moment in my career to date, I want to say, with that, you know. It just had that wow. It was just like, wow. Do you know what I mean? I said to them after, you're good, you are, you're very good, you know, like that, and whatever, because it blew my mind. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, people come to church for different reasons. It's not just for proof of survival. It's just sort of like to have that little link with a loved one at times. But
Yeah,
you know, we as mediums know that we're there not only to provide evidence, but we're there to bring comfort. We're there to give guidance from spirit as well. I remember up in Clitheroe, right? Little lad there, and he come up and shook my hands, and he said, "I've been coming in here for weeks waiting to hear from my grandmother, and you gave me a message from my grandmother, and he's over the moon with it."
oh,
You know
that's
what I
lovely.
mean? That was a little wow for me as well. You know what I mean? But
It's quite beautiful sometimes, and also I want to
yeah,
say sometimes it's like you get ones like you just said where they're like, oh, I've never heard from this person, and you brought them through. It means absolute well to me, and that's nice, isn't it? Because you know sometimes who the people want to come through don't necessarily come through, and I think then I do feel like sometimes recipients can be a little bit shut down to that because
yeah, that's when you start getting the no's. It's not who they want.
exactly that, and then it's like just very dismissive of what's being given.
Yeah,
But
even though you're giving accurate evidential, you're
yeah,
giving accurate
yeah,
evidential message,
yeah,
but it's
it's
not
not
who
who
they
they
want.
want.
Saying no, and as you said the right word there, dismissive.
Yes,
It's not treating
yeah.
you like some sort of a fool. That does anger me. You
It
know.
does me, and do you know what I do now though, Stephen? So I'm kind of pick up on it quite quickly sometimes when I'm working now, and I'll say to spirit, "There's someone else that needs to step forward for this gentleman or lady, whatever." I'll say that to spirit,
Yeah,
and then they bring the right person in normally for me
yeah.
now.
I remember at Fleet Church giving this lady a message from this gentleman. She's going no, 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 and she's going like that, and all the rest of it. And
Yeah,
then the gentleman in spirit said to me, she knows bloody well who it is. It's Brian, her father-in-law. So I said, look, I said, you know, I said, I'm going to say it as he said, you know who it is. It's Brian, your father-in-law. She went, yeah, but I know, but it's not who I want.
oh really?
Yeah, and I said, well, I can't bring through who you want. I don't decide who comes through. You
No,
know, but he's come to give you a message. So please be polite enough to accept the message from him.
absolutely, yeah. But I think
You
that's
know,
where like we have to be so adaptable, and they keep us on our toes, and um
well,
because
that's it.
but I've had it a few times where it's not the person they want. So I'll say to spirit, is there anyone else, please, that would like to step forward as well? So I'll give the message of what that person's come to say, and then I'll ask spirit to bring somebody else. To which suddenly their whole attitude, their whole body language changes because it's like, oh, this is someone I
Yeah,
want to hear from now. Oh
yeah,
yes, yes,
yeah.
yes, 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 and you're like, wow.
On now. It's lovely, don't get me wrong, but I don't think they need to make us look stupid in the meantime. You
I
know
know
what
what
I
you're
mean?
saying. Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
I know.
I've completely forgotten what I was going to say. I'm 66, you know, but you
Bless
know,
you.
I think we should embrace. Well, you know,
Yeah.
probably like you, a change in working will come when I'm halfway through a service, and I do my best to try and embrace it because I know maybe
But they
that could
like
be
to change it up, don't they? Where
yeah,
was I? Working recently somewhere, and I was like, oh, they totally changed the way in which I still went to people. Is that's how I was always taught to work. Do you know what I mean? By my tutor. And I worked that way. But when I was going to one person, they were bringing like 10 people through for that one person. And I'm like, well, hang on a minute here. You can't all talk at the same time, trying to, do you know what I mean?
oh yeah,
Yeah, and I'm like, what are you doing? I'm talking to him in my head while I'm working with this person, going, what are you doing to me here? Why have I got the whole world coming in for one person? And they did that all evening, and I said to them, I did not like that. I felt all at sea because I said, you can't all talk at the same time, and that's what I was trying to tell them when I was working because it was getting a little bit muddly in places, you know.
yes. Sometimes I've had a couple come through and they're pushing and shoving.
Mm,
Trying to be the first one. I've just said to them, look, one at a time, and I've said to my guys, get them, you know, sort them out one at a time.
Yeah.
I'll give a message for both of them. Or I have had that on the odd occasion, where it's sort of like half a football stadium wanting to chat to them. You know what I mean? And I have to say,
I know, but it's like,
let's bring one through at a time. You know what I mean?
when you don't like the way, when you don't work that way usually, and then they're bringing in like a whole coach load, you think, how am I gonna? They're all trying to talk, and I'm like, come on, I want a bit of order here, and I'm having to sort them all out before I can even work with whoever wants to speak, because they're all trying to talk. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, because sometimes I could be working with 5 people at the same time, say mum, dad, nan, granddad, and they'll all be like interjecting. And a lot of the times in a private reading, that works really, really well. But when you haven't got a lot of time on platform, when you're doing a dem, not so much. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's right, because you've only got a small window, to bring people through. But, I'm of the feeling, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's my comfort zone, But I'm also like a little kiddie in a sweet shop. So if it does change, I'll try to embrace it and go with it. Because maybe the communicator isn't that sort of adept in communicating through a medium, you know what I mean? So I try to work on their level to bring the message through,
Also, I want to say about that though is like, some people may have never come through to spirit before and been through for that person. And so I think sometimes spirit are like, well, what do we need to do? Do you know what I mean? And I'll say, well, because I hear them a lot, so they speak to me quite a bit. I'll say, just talk and I'll listen and then I'll relay it. Do you know what I mean? Because some of them don't know what they need to do as well.
Yeah. That's very true. So you just got to find a way of, be welcome, because they can be that faint. I have to draw them closer. So I can get the information that they give. But
do you ever have it as well where, like, for some reasons, on some occasions when I'm working, they come in, but they don't come in as close as I'd like them to be, and then therefore you're like, I can't kind of get that information as I'd like it. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Because they're back, they're not coming as close as you want them to. Have you had that as well?
Yeah. It's happening a lot recently as well.
Yeah, and that makes it challenging, doesn't it? Because like, we need to hear them or we need to know what the message is, but if they're standing 6 miles away, it's a bit difficult. Do you know what I mean?
But I'll just say to the person who's receiving a message, I'll just say, I've got this very faint energy here. I feel it's a male or a female, but they're right over there, and I'm trying to get them to come closer. I'll just explain what's going on.
I've been doing that lately as well, because I say I've got such and such, but they're not coming in as close as I'd like them to be.
Yeah, so I'll just sort of coaxing them in and all the rest of it. But you'll find if you give them that little bit of time, it usually works out. That they will sort of get closer. Maybe not as close as you'd like, but they will come closer. And you can give the message that is.
Why do you? What do you think the theory is on that? Because I obviously prepare in meditation always, whenever I do anything, and sometimes I'm short in meditation. Sometimes I feel I want to sit for a bit longer. But I like to prepare in that way because it clears my headspace a bit as well, especially if I've got a lot going on or what have you. But I do prepare, and sometimes I probably over prepare. But you just, no 2 dems are going to be the same, are they? Do you know what I'm saying?
That's right. Yeah, I try to get myself in what I call that space.
Yeah.
I remove myself from the equation, so all that's happening with me is out of the way.
I know what you're saying.
Stuff like that. So that I try as much as I can to be a clear vessel for spirit, so that I can pick up clearly what they're trying to communicate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just by removing myself out of the equation. But there are times, you know this yourself, Helen. You've been running late for one reason or another. You've gone hurtling up the motorway, and you walked in, and it's sort of like 3 minutes before you got to start. You're not tuned in at all. I've just got and people want to chat to you, which is annoying. All right. But I've just practiced over years of just getting in that space very, very quickly. Another point you made, which I thought was good. Sometimes you can over prepare.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think the other thing, I don't know. I think for me, when I sat with spirit, it probably took me 1.5 to 2 years, if I'm honest, to be able to fully clear my mind of all my rubbish, all my baggage. My teacher used to say, put that in a suitcase and put it on the shelf, and you can have all your worries and troubles back later, but you don't need them now. Leave them at the door. Do you know what I mean? And I think that is very true. And it did take me 1.5 to 2 years to be able to do that fully. Yeah.
Yeah, it takes time. Yeah, it's not easy because we're so conditioned to be in our own space, aren't we?
Yes.
You know, and spirit for that short period of time are asking you to change that, to put yourself over to one side. You know, your problems, your worries, your aches and pains, and everything like that. You know, what you've got to do tomorrow doesn't matter. It's about now.
Yeah.
Yeah, giving you a time for spirit. I mean, I've said that to people when I've talked. Leave your life outside the door.
Yeah.
Spirit, your guides and everybody's here waiting for you. For this hour or so, this hour and a half is you and spirit, so that you can develop and grow. And we're only asking, the spirit are only asking an hour and a half of you once a week. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Not
the
a
rest
lot.
of the work you could be dealing with whatever you need to deal with, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it seems to be the theme of dedication and commitment coming in through our little chat.
Massively. And I know when I was quite young, I was probably about 10, 13, weird things used to happen. Like, my friend used to stay over, you know, we did sleepovers in them days, and my friends used to come, and there was like, outside the bedroom window, I used to hear footsteps every night, someone walking up and down, and it went on for weeks and months and months. Whether this was anything to do with spirit, I don't ever know, because I never found out what it was. But one night, a big stone came through the window, smashed through my parents' bedroom window. And again, I've heard this walking and footsteps outside. And I never know to this day whether that was part of it even back then. Do you know what I mean?
I just think very possibly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I feel that, you know? Yeah.
Spirit,
but it was really scary. Do you know what I mean? It was scary as a child.
Oh yeah, especially you as a young girl. You know, it would be scary. You know, it scared me as a young boy.
Yes.
You know, because I can remember in my early years, yes, I had some weird and wonderful things happen, but I also had some really scary stuff happen.
Yeah.
As well, but what I've explained to a lot of people is that, you know, when spirit are communicating here with us on earth, they have to vibrate more in matter. And if we're not seeing them or hearing them or sensing them or whatever way we do, because they're more of matter, they can move objects.
Yes.
Because they're vibrating more solidly. So they'll move an ashtray, for instance, you know.
Yeah.
That ashtray suddenly moved on the coffee table, or that vase of flour moved over 6 inches. You know what I mean? Just to keep our attention, you know.
Yeah.
Well, it's like trying to chat to somebody and they're totally blanking you and ignoring you. So you just keep stepping up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever you need to do to get to listen. And I think it's the same for spirit as well. You know.
Yeah. Definitely.
You know, but with that experience you had years ago, I mean, it could just be somebody that a spirit, you know, an earthbound spirit that may have lived in the house or connected to a piece of ground or something, you know.
I feel that. I don't know. I also had a reading before I was working with spirit. I would have been in my 20s, I think, then. So I wasn't working with spirit. And I don't know if you believe such things as attachments, but this lady that did a reading for me said I had a man that was like an attachment to me. So she did a clearance. Have you heard of this before?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
So I wonder whether that's maybe.
Well, yeah, go on.
Yeah, absolutely. So was that because I was always going to be quite spiritual, but I didn't know it then? Do you know what I'm trying to say? Were spirit drawn to me? Was I that channel even when I was younger, but I didn't connect? Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, and it's because you were open and nobody taught you how to close down yet. So you're creating this light, and then there are those that are on a lower level of spirit, lower level of understanding that will see that little light and attach themselves to you.
Yeah.
In extreme cases, they can completely take over your life. You
Really?
you take on more of their personality. So if they were a drunk with a mental health disorder,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You know, you can become quite ill, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I've
So,
also
go
seen a
on.
couple of I've also seen a couple of mediums debunking sort of attachments and saying it ain't possible. I think that's rubbish. I think if you're in a low state or very open to spirit, I think
Yeah.
you know you can get attachments. Okay, but
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I just spoke about it because I felt that that's what someone once said to me, and they did an amazing reading. They were spot on with everything, and they said, "Oh, you've got an attachment to you, and what have you." So that's why I wanted to bring that one up, really, as well. But I don't know whether you've had also when I was probably in my 30s, I would say. So I wasn't still working with spirit until I hit my 40s. But there was a lot of like activity in the home, like moving like candles and flowers. And I remember one day I was sat in the lounge, and then I came out of the lounge, went into the kitchen, came back into the lounge, and all the chairs were stacked on the table, balanced. I'm not even joking to you. And
like a poltergeist. Yeah.
yes, exactly like that. And I remember thinking, how have you got them on that table that quickly? Literally, I walked into the kitchen and walked straight back into the lounge again. And I remember being terrified though at this point, because obviously this, I wasn't working with spirit or anything then, but they were moving candles, they were moving things, and things are being thrown. And 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 I think, do you think spirit can haunt a house, or do you think it's more of a like a child's energy at play? What's your thoughts on all of that?
Well, what I think, I'm thinking about how to answer you, but I think that's more than just trying to attract your attention.
Really? Yeah. Yeah.
I just think maybe one day your work will take a totally different turn,
Do you
become more,
actually think that? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
become more physical, like
Yes.
physical mediumship and stuff like that, which takes
Yeah.
years. But I just think if you look at the history of a house,
Yeah.
right, say an old house, it's like first house I lived in was a 100-year-old Victorian house. I was only a child,
Mm.
small child then. You think how many people have lived in that house and all the
Yeah.
energies that they've created in that house.
And do you think spirit energy gets trapped, and then
I
then
agree.
they
Yeah,
can like cause upset in the house or in the like in the building or whatever? Because people have said that to me. Oh, I feel the spirit here that's unhappy, that needs to be moved on. And you hear that a lot, don't you?
yeah.
You
I,
know?
I remember several years ago now, quite a long time ago, this lady was having things being moved in her house and all the rest of it, and she could smell pipe tobacco, even though none of them in the house smoked and stuff like that. And it was getting quite frightening. So I don't know how. This is because she lives in Portsmouth. I was living in Slough at the time, and through the powers of Facebook, I got recommended to go and have a look.
Yeah.
Right? So I went down there, and it was a bloke that died in the house. He died,
Yeah.
and the children sold the house to this lady and her family. But as far as he was concerned, he still lived there.
Right.
He didn't
Okay.
even realise he'd gone.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so to him, the lady and her two children were breaking in. They were like burglars, so he was trying to scare them out. You know
Right.
what I mean? But
Yeah.
I don't, but not necessarily haunting. Because one of my two favourite sayings is, "There's no such thing as supernatural. It's all perfectly natural, and there's no such thing as paranormal. It's all perfectly normal.
I
It's
know what
just
you're
that
saying.
we've
Yeah.
all, we as a human race have stepped away from it because we've got all
Yeah.
this technology and it's all engineering and technology and IT and everything like that, and Silicon Valley and everything like that. We've moved away from
Yeah.
that awareness and that knowing of all things that happen.
Yes, I know what you're
Uh,
saying. But I do feel that people have attachments or are made to feel quite terrible in themselves. Do you know what I mean? From
Yeah, I've had some come, oh, you've got an attachment like on Public Enemy #1. But I was learning about attachments in 1978, in Circle, because I was very open to spirit and lots of weird and wonderful things were happening to me, most of them frightening. And I had the luck to land up with Berenice, who taught me how to close down.
Yeah.
Who taught me, and she, part of the conversation was about being way too open and lower level spirits attaching themselves to you and taking over your personality through their aura, through your aura, should I say. Yeah, so it's very possible. I think
it's always important, isn't it, I regularly do prayer at night anyway when I do my healing, and I do a prayer. But I always ask, occasionally I just do a clearance anyway. Do you know what I mean? Because I think sometimes, occasionally now, if you feel low yourself, you can be made feel worse, like there's something, do you know what I mean, there? So it's important to ask for protection, ask for that clearance, you know what I mean? Definitely.
Yeah, it can just be you're having a bad time in life, and you're feeling low or whatever.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
That opens the door, you know what I mean? But but I'm somebody that has to close down every night and close down every morning. The only time I open is when I'm physically serving spirit.
Yeah, same now. But when I started, I walked around open the whole time. Do you know what I mean? And I think people do sometimes, and it's not safe to be walking around open all day long, though, is it? Do you know what I mean?
It's not, because I know somebody in a church that, oh, Spirit of Beautiful, I stay open all the time. And then I just said to them when they said this to me, they've said it to me a few times, but I turned around to them and said, have you often wondered why you're always ill? You know what I mean? Because your energy's been drained. Hello to New Zealand as well. Hello, everybody, the 4 people that are joining us.
Good evening, everyone.
But I said to them, you often wondered why you're always ill.
Yeah,
because you're having your energy all the time.
Yeah.
It's not just spiritual energy, because the spirit is linked to the physical. It's draining your physical energy as well.
Yeah,
and affecting you physically.
So absolutely. And I want to say, as I said, it's not for the faint-hearted, but it's very rewarding and inspirational and amazing to serve spirit. But the mental fatigue about it as well, though, it can become very tiring, can't it? Do you know what I mean? I don't know if you sometimes have a day where you're like, I could sleep for a year. Do you know what I mean? I think sometimes we probably overwork ourselves or whatever,
I remember last year I'd done 2 services in one day. I'd done Southampton, and then I went to Wales to serve Trinity, and that was 2 services, 2 design services. But for a week after that, I felt like my head was full up with cotton wool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I try to explain to people that we concentrate on a higher level than we do on our normal everyday sort of lives.
Absolutely.
But I do think it's a beautiful path, and this has become prevalent. For the last few weeks, I've been giving people messages that could be wonderful mediums. They really could be outstanding,
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, once the likes of me and you are gone, we need people to take over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. We do.
To keep
Spirit always want new blood, don't they? Definitely.
That's
right. To come forward,
It's like this message I gave to this lady the other day. She's got a lot of spirit children around her. And she helps them. She's aware of helping them on the spirit side of life. You know, and I explained all about that to her. But my guide was telling me that she's going to be, they want to use her for people that have lost children.
Right, okay,
grieving parents and all that, and grieving children that are in spirit. Okay. And I said, do you just realise what a sacred path that is? What a beautiful path that is. I said, this pathway of mediumship, yes, it's hard, but it's also beautiful and it's also sacred. Absolutely. I could sit in a room with you and 5 other mediums. We'd all sit there moaning about this, that, and the other, but we'd all agree it's a beautiful path.
Absolutely. Yeah. And no matter how the challenge is and how hard it is, I feel it's an absolute honour to serve spirit, and
it is, because I just ended the message. you know, and I know you've experienced this, and I know that with me, sometimes I go to bed feeling so very blessed that I've been a part of the mechanism that's given that message, that has brought that upliftment, that has brought
Yeah.
that healing, that has brought that peace. You know what I mean? Whatever's needed, Spirit knows what's needed. You know what I
They
mean?
do. They really do. And isn't that such a wonderful thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And I thank Spirit. Thank you for making me a part of that mechanism to do that.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
I mean, all I've done is be their mouthpiece. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's just so wonderful to be a part of it.
It
You
really
know,
is. It really, really is. And
and I
it
said,
brings a lot of comfort, doesn't it, to people? Do you know what I mean? And a lot of
yeah,
comfort.
and I said to her, wouldn't you like that feeling at night? That feeling of being so blessed that you've been part of something that's really helped somebody in whatever way. She went,
Yeah.
yeah, I said, get yourself in development. I said, the guides have told you what they want to do for you, and that's going to be a very hard part. But you'll
Yeah.
bring healing to the parent, the grieving parents, and the grieving child.
Yeah.
You know, and I said, that's sacred. I said, unlike me, bringing people messages from people's grannies. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, just tell them that they like to play football on a Sunday or whatever evidence. You know, but
Yeah.
you know, that is the pure role of mediumship, is to be a healer, to be a guide. You know, to bring comfort and upliftment
It is.
and
That's
all
right.
that. And to me, evidence is just a tiny part of it. You know, just
It is. I know. I think people say, "Oh, you've got to have that nutmeg of evidence in everything," and sometimes that's not the same for every link. Every link's kind of individual and different from the next one.
I'll agree with that 100%. Yeah,
And sometimes it's like just about that person maybe struggling, and also Spirit will help people to try and open up their emotions as well.
that's
Um,
right. Yeah,
and because they've obviously held them in so much, you know what I mean? And Spirit will look to open them up to help them to kind of like release it, you know, I think as well. And I think
yeah,
that's truly quite amazing as well, isn't it? You know?
yeah.
Yeah,
I do, because you know, you go to some places and you're there, and so and so's telling me that this happened and that happened, and you need to release from it. You need to have that healing and all the rest of it. And you've got people going, but you've got the committee at the back tutting and all the rest of it. But it's needed, it's necessary. Spirit wouldn't be saying it otherwise.
no.
You know what I mean? And that's sort of like, you know, they just want you bashing out evidence all the time, which telling
Yeah, I know
people
what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Yeah,
you're
absolutely.
just telling people stuff they already know.
Yeah,
My guy Lee, he always said, just use evidence enough, just purely for recognition, so that they know who's talking to them or who you've
yeah,
got there. Yeah. After that, he said, give the message. You know. But having said all that, all right, and I've been saying all that for a long time. I've done services, and no doubt you have. Is, you know, I'll even say, you know, evidence is just purely for recognition, and then you'll go to somebody and you'll just give pure evidence throughout the reading, throughout the message,
yeah.
and all the rest of it. But that's what's needed for that person.
It is. It is that, isn't it? Definitely. And
Yeah, somebody
they're
else
just
needs to
so
know that they
clever,
got
aren't
the.
they? Go
Yeah,
on.
yeah. That's about communicating to levels of understanding. You know,
Yes.
you're communicating to the level of understanding of the spirit communicator, but you're also communicating to the level of understanding to the person who's receiving the message. You
Yeah.
know, so you know, and I know that you've experienced this over one service. You can experience several different levels.
Yeah.
You know, one's
Definitely.
getting pure
Definitely.
evidence. You know, one's just got a little bit of information about mother that she wanted to know, or whatever. Somebody's being told about their energy or whatever and what they need to release. You
Yeah.
know, and stuff like that. And I
Yeah.
think it makes it more interesting like that, because you're working on levels, aren't you? You know,
Yeah. Definitely.
you're not just going purely down the evidential line. You know,
So, why do you think that sometimes the links are really strong versus why the links aren't so strong? Do you think it's the
right?
people that come from spirit, or do you think it's us, or do you think it's both them and us?
I think it's a bit of both. I'm always saying
Yeah.
to people that you get out of spirit communication, what you put into it. If you're going to be
Yeah.
sitting there with your arm folded, thinking I'm not giving the medium nothing, fair enough.
Yeah.
We don't want to be fed, but
No.
you know, you're negative, or you bring your bad day in with you.
Yeah.
That creates low energy within that room, in that church, or that
Yeah.
community centre, or wherever, you know, and it makes it difficult for a
It
spirit to
does.
communicate in that energy, because people don't realise it's all about energy.
It is
You
all
know,
about energy, and I think
yeah,
I've
yeah,
had services and dems in the past where the energy's very low or very flat in the church,
yeah. It's
and
like
then
walking through a treacle. Yeah,
yeah, it is, and it does affect the medium. If the energy's as flat as a pancake, the medium's got to take them self up so high, and sometimes
yeah,
it's just like you say, wading through a treacle. It's like impossible, but you've still got to do it. You know, yeah. So, like
yeah.
you say, it's all energy, isn't it? You know.
That's it. And I think, you know, there's a couple of churches I serve where the enemy's so where the energy's so high, you could be a housebreaker and give an evidential message. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
absolutely. I
It's so
know what you're
high,
saying.
you know, you can't fail. You know, other
Yeah.
times it's like walking waist deep in treacle. You know,
It's right. You're right. You're so
you know,
right. Yeah, because I have places that I love working that are
yeah.
great in
Well,
energy, and it's like,
and,
wow, you
and
know?
another
Yeah,
good point you made is that you have to raise your energy so high to
yeah,
rise above it. Because if you start taking it personally, that's when yourself starts coming in. You know
yeah,
what I mean? You have to
yeah,
keep that on one side. But I think it's, you know, on the level. You know, I made a
yeah,
joke about it because you go to these churches and there's the same people sitting there. Like they've had evidence thousand times
yeah,
over. You know, their mums, their dads, and their brothers and their sisters, and all that are coming through week in, week out. So those mums, dads, brothers, and sisters, and ex-wives or whatever, right? They're well
yeah,
used to communicating through mediums.
yeah,
You know, and I made a joke. Well, they're used to it. You know what I
yeah,
mean? But on the other hand, you know, you get somebody that's maybe not long gone over. I found suicides difficult to bring through as well. Um,
yeah, yeah. I've
that's a
had a
different
couple. Yeah.
that's a different kind of link, but you can still link and get the message through.
I think
Um,
it's about how you deliver that, isn't it, though, as well?
yeah, yeah,
And
it's like I forget the famous community, but it's in the way you tell them. It really is.
oh, absolutely. I mean, we've talked about this, I know before, but personal responsibility is a big one. How you deliver that in that moment is really, really
Yeah,
important because it's sensitive situation for that person, for the person in spirit, and so forth. You know, so it's important how you deliver that. You know.
I think compassion is the key. I really do. Um,
Yeah.
but you know what's being said and how do you deliver it, and you can make that decision in a split second if you want. Or what I would say, if you're not sure, just go very gently with it. You know, but
I agree with you, and I think if I have a heavy link, even on platform, I'll just slow the spirit down a little bit and slow my energy down just a little bit, so that I can deliver it as best as I can deliver it. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. You know, it's, you've got two. I've got Grandad here, and he he cycled his push bike up Mount Everest one Sunday. Ah, great evidence, lovely. Then you've got um, a communicator coming through, died very sadly in tragic
yeah,
circumstances, or they had suffered with depression a lot of their lives. Totally different link, totally different energy, and you've got to bring it through in a way that communicator can communicate, but
yeah,
so that you don't bring upset and harm to that person. Because I remember years ago in Circle, a Berenice learning how to wrap up a message so that the person who's getting the message knows what you're on about, but the other 20 people in the room don't know what you're on about.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
I
it
know what
can
you
be
mean
difficult.
there, because
You know,
sometimes they almost work in code, don't they?
well, that's right, yeah. But I I said this Sunday night, and I've said it so many times. Person will say, I understand. And I'll say, well, I don't understand it. But there again, it's not for me to understand.
No, that's right. You're right. That's
Yeah,
right.
it's you that needs to understand it, not me. You know, um,
Yeah,
yeah, it's, I was going to say something. I was going to end up with something funny then, but it's 8 o'clock now. So
that's gone so quick, hasn't it? Thank you so much for having me. I've had a lovely evening. It's been lovely.
It's been great. I'll give it a few months and I'll give you another invite, okay?
Yeah,
it's been
give us another chat. Yeah, lovely.
You take care, young lady, and I'll just play the outro. Thank you for a few people that joined us. Anyway, take care, you all. God bless.